Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I have a box to open. This one's actually a really exciting, kind of cool story. So, recently I bought and opened and gave my first impressions on and fully reviewed the Giant Mouse Ace Grand. And in that review, or in each of those videos, I was pretty open that I had been a little bit dissatisfied with a number of the knives I had gotten from Giant Mouse previously. It started with the GM2, and then I got a Biblio, and then I got a, what's it called? Now I'm drawing a blank on the name, Iona. And the GM2 was awesome, but it just had too light of a detent for the flipper tab. And then the Biblio was really kind of the same thing. It was just too light of a detent. I prefer a crisp detent for a flipper. It drives me nuts when a flipper, you have to like get it right to get it to deploy all the way. I want it to be that you have to get it wrong for it to not deploy all the way. And then the Iona just was a design that frankly wasn't really for me. I don't think there was necessarily an issue with the build on that knife, but I wasn't crazy about the design overall, and that's a different story, to be fair. So after kind of expressing those thoughts in my videos, Giant Mouse actually reached out to me and mentioned that they have updated, they're on a subsequent batch of the Biblio, and it's been a really popular model for them. I know tons of people who adore that knife, and it's one of their favorite EDC blades. And so I assumed all along that the one I got just wasn't a perfect example, frankly. But they let me know even that they've updated they've made subtle changes as they've updated which batch they're on with that knife, and now it should be a little bit better based on the critiques that I had of it. And so they sent me one to check out just to kind of prove that they've improved on that model, which I think is a really commendable thing for them. I didn't reach out to them and say anything, really. All I had done was send them the links to my videos I'd posted of their knife, this knife, because anytime that I post a review of a knife, I send it to the people behind the knife, because I figure if I was a knife designer, knife manufacturer, if I was on the the creating of the products end of this type of thing, I would want the feedback, positive or negative. I would welcome it, and I'm generally not that like mean to knives. I tend to share my opinions, and to be honest, but I figure it's probably constructive for these people if I have things to say about them. So anyway, I didn't ask them for this knife at all, but rather they reached out to me and said that they would like to send one to kind of show me, and then in turn have me share with you guys whether or not it's way better than the one that I first got and immediately got rid of. So I'm really excited for this. I'm not sure which spec Biblio this is, but I know that it's a Biblio. And so as we open it, I'm going to find out right here with you what exact variant it is. I know they've got some in Micarta. They do some in titanium scales now. I've seen, because I do follow them on Instagram and I see other people's pictures of them, they've got quite a few variants from what I've seen, like different colors of micarta. I think they did G10 for a little bit, and then now, like I said, there's titanium ones, which my buddy just got one, Lefty EDC, was just messaging with me, it's either yesterday or the day before, showing me pictures of the one that he just got, and he's really, really liking. He got a titanium one, and he was pumped about it. He said the quality is excellent, and the detent was even on the stiffer side rather than the lighter side. So that was encouraging for me to hear. And to be fair, it's been a while since I got that first one. The Biblio was a pretty new model when I got mine, and so they could very well be correct that it's going to be a different story now. So Giant Mouse Ace packaging. This is what's all of the Ace model knives that I've gotten from them have been in a brown box just like this. Looks good to me. I'm not usually one who's like, I don't need really nice packaging. I'd rather have the money that goes into the packaging go into what's in the box. But it does feel nice when you get nice packaging. And this is kind of a happy medium in my mind, where it's branded. This isn't a low quality box. It's nice thick material, but it's not like magnetic, and it's not lined with velour inside. It's a box, but it's done well. All right, got a little piece of paper there, and oh sweet. So this is their red micarta. I forget what the exact term for it is, but as you can see, it is reddish in color. It's a little bit kind of maroon, maybe burgundy. And I really like, I already know this about Giant Mouse. I like the way that they do micarta. The micarta on the first Biblio I got, that one was OD green micarta, I think. It might have been tan. I think it was OD green. Anyway, that one, the micarta was excellent. I like that it comes kind of dry, and it's quick to soak up some oils from my fingertips here. It's a good, well-finished micarta. The edges are nice and rounded. One thing I will say that I already know before putting this knife in my pocket is not my favorite thing about the design, but is kind of a smallish thing. It's not a deal breaker about a knife in general, is that they use a loop over wire deep carry style clip, but they mount it not right at the end of the knife. So even though it's a loop over clip, you still have this much knife sticking out of your pocket. I feel like in my head, the purpose of a loop over deep carry clip is to get it to come right to the end of the knife, so that when the knife is in your pocket, all you see is clip. You don't see knife sticking out. Again, relatively small thing. They're not the only people to do that. And I do remember from putting my first one in pocket, it did seem to carry well, going in and out of pocket well. I didn't have it long enough to formulate a lot of experience with it, but nonetheless. So, centering looks perfect. Fit and finish is very, very good. All of our edges here meet up perfectly, no gaps, no voids. The micarta itself is really well finished, and I do just love the texture of their micarta. It's very similar to what's on the Grand in terms of the feel of this carbon, or of this micarta rather. Yeah, nice. Plus, I think this is the only red micarta I've ever owned, so that's cool. See how the action is? Hey, okay. So the very first flip of my first Biblio, it didn't deploy all the way. And I was like, what? Maybe I did it wrong. And then I did it again in like a light switch way too, not even like push button. And it didn't deploy quite so crisp. But this push button or light switch, it's deploying as it should. In fact, it's a little bit stiff and I just slipped off of it, which is just my own finger placement problem. But yeah, this is great. Okay, so the action immediately. If I had gotten my first one and it was snappy like this, I would probably still have that knife now. This is very, very good. Let's see how the middle finger flicking is. Oh yeah, it's almost. So yeah, the middle finger flicking, it definitely shows me that it's a stiffer detent than is on the Grand. Because the Grand, having no flipper, it doesn't need that stiff of a detent. This one, having the flipper tab, it has to be stiffer, because usually the type of detent that's great for middle finger flicking is too soft for a flipper. So this one inherently, when I'm middle finger flicking it, it's a stiffer pop than the Grand, noticeably so. Wow, okay, yeah, so this is... Conversely, my first one was not a good action. This is, I will go so far as to say, a very fun action on deployment. This is just, oh, it's crispy, it's good. On closure, it's definitely not a drop shutter, not even close as you can see, but I don't necessarily hold that against it. Yeah, I feel like with the way certain actions give preference to like the crispness of the deployment. I don't know, maybe if I loosen this or add some KPL, because it is on bearings, so I feel like maybe with some adjustment it'll drop shut a little more. I don't need it to be a guillotine. I would, if I'm being totally honest here, which I'm striving to do, I would give a little bit of preference if it could really come down a little bit better. but it does feel a little bit tight. So we'll see. I'll give it a little bit of adjustment. As it is right now, there's no blade play. None back to forth, or none side to side, none back and forth. Alright, so I will see about doing a little bit of adjustment and see how that does for closing it. But right now, in terms of deployment, very, very good. Excellent deployment. It's just not a drop shutter, which it's not the end of the world. I'd rather have a knife that deploys excellently every time than to have a knife that drops shut every time. If I could only have one, I'd pick deployment over closing, but it'll be great if I can have both, so we'll see about adjusting it. This is nice. Yeah, so fit and finish is great. Centering is perfect. Lockup is exactly where I want it. Let me show you where that lockup is. I feel like on a liner lock, that is about all you can ask for. That's a great lockup. And like I said, feeling it, there's no side to side, no front to back, so it's a solid lockup as well. I like that here we also, just like on the Grand, have kind of a crowned spine. It's a thinner blade stock on the Biblio, and this one I believe is M390. I don't see it marked, but the crowning isn't as dramatic. It doesn't round quite as much as it does on the Grand, but it's still a rounded spine. It's crowned, and they do place the jimping up nice and far forward, just like, in my opinion, way more people should. It's just a better placement for jimping, in my opinion. All the way back here, it just puts it in a great spot. And then when I'm choked up, I've still got it kind of right where I want it. Whereas if it was back here, that's not where my thumb wants to land. My thumb wants to land here. This knife also is one of those great examples of just kind of being a little big knife. The way that this knife feels in my hands is so much more substantial and confidence inspiring than it really kind of is size wise on paper. I don't know, great. It's a really great design, and that's one thing that I've said all along. Giant Mouse designs from Anso and Voxnays are, I love their design language. Almost everything that they put out individually and together I like. And that's been one of my frustrations with the brand when I've had some less than favorable experiences, is that on, like, before having it in hand, I've wanted to like it so much, and this is confidence inspiring based on just having gotten it out of the box. Definitely going to be a much more intriguing journey this time than it was the first time. So, very cool. Thank you so much to Giant Mouse Knives for sending this for me to check out and to review. I'm really looking forward to carrying it, using it, adjusting it a little bit, seeing if I can get it more to my preferences on closing as well as that deployment. But the deployment is very, very good. It's what I would want out of a flipper. And this knife is designed with a flipper tab. You're supposed to flip it. So this is great to see that they've got it right here. I really, really like that. Awesome. Well, I'm going to get to started on carrying this and get to started. I don't think that's a real. I'm going to get started on carrying and using this a fair bit, seeing what it's made of, what it's capable of, and just enjoying it. And I'll have a first impressions here in the next couple of days, and then a full review in probably just over a week, realistically. I want to give myself at least a week of putting this in pocket at least once a day, cutting something with it, kind of my typical go-to process. So, be on the lookout for all of that. Thank you again, Giant Mouse. It's funny, I DM with somebody on their Instagram, and I'm not sure if it's one of the designers of the knives, if it's Anso or Voxnays, or if it's someone there in the office, or if they have a social media person or what, but whoever it is that I'm messaging with on Instagram, you are awesome. I appreciate you answering all my questions and making this happen. This is very exciting for me to give this another shot, because it's, like I said, I know so many people who love them, and they're people whose taste I usually find myself very closely aligned with, and I also I like the design, I like the size, I'm comfortable with the weight for the size and the design, I like multiple deployment methods, I love having a whole to middle finger flick, and flippers are fun. It's so on paper a great knife for me, so I'm really excited to give one another shot, and I'm flattered that they were willing to send me one to kind of win me over, I assume is their motive. And I think it's commendable for them to be the type of company that would watch an albeit relatively small YouTube reviewer who, at the time that they sent it to me, I had 1,500 subscribers, to have them be willing to send a product to somebody just to, I don't even want to say right or wrong, because it's not like they wronged me. They sold me a knife that wasn't totally up to my standards, but it could have been a QC issue, it could have been a number of things, and they could so easily, my point is, they could so easily have just, never watched the video. A lot of people couldn't care less about what people are saying on YouTube. They could have also just watched it and completely disregarded it and been like, that guy's a jerk and he doesn't know what he's talking about, but for them to believe my experience, which I legitimately had, and to take the time and effort to reach out to me, send me a product, and show me what they're capable of, I think it just speaks of them as a company. It's hard for me to say more about it than that. We'll see how it actually goes with my full review process on it this time, and I'm going to be absolutely honest and fair about this knife as if I bought it with my own money. But it's really, really cool that they made it happen and that they care. So I think that's all worth saying. It probably wasn't the most coherent way of going about it, but it proves to you that I'm not scripted, and I'm just here saying the thoughts as they come into my brain. So anyway, this is the Giant Mouse Ace Biblio in red micarta, and I believe M390. I'm almost positive on that. I'll double check and make sure, but it's a really, really cool knife. It's one that I want to like, and based on how it just came out of the box, I'm starting to really like it. Much, much more than I did the first time I gave one a shot. So this is a lot of fun. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Thank you, Giant Mouse, for sending it. Thank you to my Patreon patrons. Real quick, if you're still watching this and you're a Patreon patron, I'm going to have a giveaway here in the next couple of days for Patreon patrons only. I'll give more details about that specifically in Patreon for those of you who are in there to see, but it should be a knife worth winning, something from my personal collection, and I'm hoping that it shows my appreciation a little bit to you guys. So thank you so much to my Patreon patrons. Thank you all of you who are subscribed, those of you who comment, those of you who like, those of you who just watch a video but have never subscribed, or those of you who have somehow subscribed and never watched a video. I appreciate all of you. I'm having so much fun doing this, and this is only the beginning. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. I'll see you soon with more on this guy.